How are y'all doing, everybody? This is the JDW Rival Podcast. I'm Aaron. I'm the Texas fan. This is my boy DJ. He's the Colts fan. And, today, just as every other episode, we're going to go over our teams, what's going on, what the future has for the offseason. And then also later in the episode, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl recap. But first off, DJ, anything going on with the Colts?
With the Colts, I mean, so far we've gotten some good news
Mm,
about a linebacker, Jermaine Pratt from the Cincinnati Bengals, who used to work with the new hired defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo.
mm,
Colts recently just hired him as a defensive coordinator. And currently, I mean, Jermaine Pratt, linebacker of the Cincinnati Bengals, he was drafted in a third round pick from 2019. And he is demanding that, he gets traded, right? He wants to move to another team. He actually
mm.
wants to just make that move, make that step forward, really.
Yeah.
And that is what we're seeing from Jermaine Pratt from his statement. But yeah, according to the Stampede Blue, I do want to cite an article here that makes some good points about how Jermaine Pratt could become a potential Colts member. He's a
Mm,
great linebacker, a great captain on his team, and I mean to see him on the Colts would be an excellent move. And I believe this is the site manager for the Stampede Blue, Luke Shotisis, as he states, the Bengals
mm,
defensive captain was originally, right, a third round pick. And he's coming off a 2024 season where he recorded 143 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 2 interceptions, 6 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles. I mean, this guy during all 17 starts was a star. And per
mm.
PFF, Pratt was their 56th best graded linebacker with a 60.2 overall grade, which is actually just one spot behind Colts second team All Pro starting linebacker Zaire Franklin, who registered a 60.3.
Oh,
So it is pretty crazy to say that, if we do add this member of the team, I honestly think, Aaron, that he would be an upgrade over someone like EJ Speed, if I'm
mhm.
not wrong. I mean, let me hear some of your thoughts on this. But Jermaine Pratt seems like a really excellent fit for the Indianapolis Colts if it can get done.
Oh yeah, nah, especially and it's funny because of how, there's another target from the Cincinnati Bengals they're looking at from Trey Henderson to him. So, and honestly, coming from the Bengals defense, like, yeah, they had, a bad year, but, a lot of other teams had bad years. But when it comes to the Bengals, because of how much experience they have, how much leadership they have, say you steal one of their leaders from them and put it on your team, they're going to bring leadership to the young players. So, and him replacing EJ, EJ's a good player, but honestly, he's not the star role player that you need. So, having somebody like him playing that position, especially when the run was killing y'all at times, it killed y'all a lot of times, and EJ was a main contributor that a lot of times talk to the media and all that, saying that he'll do this, he'll do that, but he just never pulled through to what he was saying. So, having somebody, a leader like that, who has experience, who has more stats, who has better, play style, to stop the run or even the pass, going after the quarterback, it's best to just go after him. Depending on the money situation, I don't know the salary cap situation going on with y'all, but yeah, no, that's honestly a good target to go after, especially for the defense, because I know defense is a key, side of the ball that y'all want to go after.
Yeah, no, right now, and I mean, to your credit and to your point, really, right now, EJ Speed, according to PFF, his completion rate allowed jumped to 85%.
Mm-hmm.
Last year in that 2023 season, it was way, way lower. And,
Yeah.
it's just crazy to me how PFF was saying this. He allowed over 2 more yards per reception, and his passer rating was 103.6 allowed. That is an immense amount to allow to quarterbacks in
Yeah.
receiving, right? Part of being a linebacker is stopping the run, but
Mm-hmm.
also pass defending really well. And, he kind of regressed last season. It wasn't the best season for him. He also had one fewer pass breakups compared to 2023 despite playing over 100 more coverage snaps this past year. That is crazy. Like he had
Yeah.
100 less compared to last year, or 100 more snaps compared to last year. And last year, his stats were better. So it's
Mm.
something happened. He clearly had a drop in performance. And, in this league moves fast, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
you could say it time and time again. This league just moves really fast. And players, right? It's just very limited. You don't know whether you can have the starting position one year, then the
Mm-hmm.
next year you're back to being a backup, or you're on a whole nother team because you weren't performing well for one year.
Mm-hmm.
And to your credit, the cap space right now is about 28 million, so it is pretty in the middle of the pack when it comes to the league. It's not too bad. Colts tend to have pretty good cap space under Chris Ballard, so I'm not too concerned whenever we have cap space. We
Mhm.
always tend to have some sort of cap space available every year with Chris Ballard under GM. One of the positives, really, about Chris Ballard, he's pretty good when it comes to money,
Yeah.
especially cap space. So I think hopefully we can acquire someone like Jermaine Pratt. I think it would be an excellent upgrade for our
Mhm.
defense under Lou Anarumo, who just is going to go into his first year. I think someone like Jermaine Pratt and Zaire Franklin on the same defense would
Oh yeah.
probably make this defense just much more better.
Yeah, most definitely. Because honestly, on the Texans side, when it comes to our linebackers, each one of them are pretty good star players, from Christian Harris, Aziz Al-Shire, and Henry Toto. But the one issue they had all season was pass protection. They couldn't cover at all. Their run defense, great, but their pass protection, it was just terrible. They couldn't, like we saw it in the Chiefs game. Kelsey caught so many passes, and it's like, where are the linebackers that are supposed to cover them? We can't just have the safeties on them. So
Yeah.
yeah, so honestly, a linebacker is a position that I don't want to get a replacement for, because I love all three guys, but it's one of those where it's like, y'all better work in your game because y'all been in the league for a good amount of years already. So come into next season doing better, because pass protection is key to no matter to what position in the defense.
Yeah, no, almost definitely. And, definitely with the Texans, like you were saying, again,
Mhm.
that's one of the huge issues, right? Your linebacker is just a hard position, right? You got to
Yeah.
be able to stop the run and have a good pass coverage rate, right? When you're on the field, you got to
Mhm.
have a really low completion, hold quarterbacks to that low completion, that low passer rating, and at the same time stop the run is the really hard
Yeah.
position. But, someone like EJ Speed, just in his position last year, just didn't really have the season that he wanted to have in 2024. And I think he was just looking forward to having a much better year. But again, we'll see what the Colts do. If we do end
Mhm.
up acquiring Jermaine Pratt, I mean, that would be excellent. We can see what's in store for us. And I think it would be an excellent move for the Indianapolis Colts. But on to the Texans. What is happening on the Texan side of things so far?
So just this week, we had our introduction, our press conference, our radio introduction to our new OC Nick Caley. And as I said last week, a lot of people were 50-50 on Nick Caley because of his background, because of this being his first year of offensive coordination. And after he said what he said in each conference they have, from the radio to the press conference media, everybody fell in love with him, and even I fell in love with him too, because there was a question that was asked, but people in general, before the questions were even asked, you could feel the aura, you could feel the confidence in himself. D'Amico Ryans was saying, the guy I interviewed, and after I interviewed him, I could tell that he really loves football." And of course, that's a basic comment about the person you introduced, but they asked him. They said, because of your Patriot background, because of your Rams background, whose style of play are you going to bring in, from the McVay tree to the Belichick tree. And Nick Haley just went out and said, "We're going to play. This is going to be Houston football. There's no name to this. This is Houston football." And I said, "Oh, okay." I love hearing that this isn't nobody's tree. This is Houston's tree that we're going to start from, because of this being his first NFL experience of being a coordinator. So I definitely love the way he's talking. And another quote that I heard that I really loved was, "If we're winning and we have the lead, we're going to run the ball 29 times if we have to kill the game." And I was like, "Oh, okay, okay." And that's something that somebody like Bobby Sloak wouldn't do. Like, if we had the lead, this dude would pass in a key position when we need to kill the clock. So, definitely, Nick Haley is so far a good hire, but well, we don't know quite yet. But it's just so far the feel of it, of his aura, of his confidence, of what he's going to bring, especially because when with us, our key thing was offensive line blocking, tight end blocking, and him, because of him being a tight end coach, he's going to bring experience to the tight end room. And each one of our tight ends, from Brevin to Dalton Schultz, they've already commented that they love that. And with our offensive line, he's already said, "Oh, I'm going to make sure that the offensive line is the key thing we go after," because even he knows that where our struggles are, what he worked on better than say the other positions. He knows that blocking is key. So I know he's going to do his best to get what we can to protect CJ, to protect Joe Mixon, to move the ball the way we want to move the ball.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I think, getting that new hire going to be
Mm.
huge for the Texans. Really, you got to up the culture, you got to increase it, and I think that's
Mm.
going to be a huge step forward for this Houston Texans team. And I like to really say this. I mean, the Houston Texans, they're one of those teams that they're very strong in this league, and I
Mm.
think with the new hires and the coaching staff, that's definitely going to help shape D'Amico Ryan's future, right? D'Amico Ryans needs to get the staff around him in order to make a successful future for the Houston Texans.
Mm.
And like you said, I mean, the Texans and the Colts could definitely go at it next year.
Oh yeah.
Definitely can't forget about the Jaguars and Titans. I mean,
Oh
we'll see how they turn out next year.
yeah.
I think, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing, the Jaguars could be a good team too. They have some solid players, but their defensive coordinator didn't have the greatest year last year. Maybe they go through with them. They have a new head coach, really fresh start there. Titans, on the other hand, is more
Mm.
interesting. They have Brian Callahan going into his second year, and they have a new GM coming from the Chiefs, right? So that's definitely going to be some interesting things around the
Yeah.
around the division specifically. But definitely just some interesting things. But before we move on to the main topic of the day,
Mm.
was there any other things you had for the Houston Texans?
Honestly, while you were talking about the other teams in the division, the one thing I don't know if you got the chance to see, but just this week they reported that the Steelers were actually interested in Trevor Lawrence, and I said, "Oh, all right. If Steelers somehow pull the plug and go after Trevor Lawrence, I'm like, that's going to shake up the Jaguars even more because that's their supposed franchise. That's
Yeah.
but to me, Trevor Lawrence has always been a bust to me because I don't know. There's just nothing there for me. But if Jaguars lose a player, trade their main franchise quarterback away, then that's going to restart the Jaguars from like just from scratch. So that's going to be interesting to see if Steelers decide to make that move instead of making Justin Fields their starter. And other than that, with us coming into the offseason, the one key thing that's coming up soon is February 17th. And for Texans fans, if you don't know what's happening, if Texans don't sign Stephon Diggs by February 17th, it will give the Texans a 16 mil cap hit, which is going to hurt bad. So honestly, it's good to see, good to keep an eye on it because we would,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if we brought Stephon back, but it will hopefully be on a team-friendly deal that wouldn't hurt our cap. But if we don't resign him, that's going to hurt our cap big time, especially when we need to go after certain key positions for the offense, for that offense line going into the offseason.
Yeah, most definitely. And, when you really get to it, right, one of the most important parts, definitely with the Texans, and like you were saying, that news of Trevor Lawrence to the Steelers, I
Yeah.
mean, that definitely could happen. We could see the Steelers start to make a move. Of course, Russell Wilson, we don't know if he's still going to stay on that team. Considering Arthur Smith announced after that game, or
Yeah.
after the season specifically, that him and Russell Wilson had a lot of debates. And usually when the OC and quarterback don't get along, yeah, I think they're probably going to stick with Justin Fields next year. And I think Russell Wilson might find another team. Pete
Mhm.
Carroll's with the Raiders. Just saying, might happen. We shall see
Yeah.
what happens there. But now we're going to get to the main event, and that is going to be the Eagles and Chiefs Super Bowl. Getting through with all the Colts, the Texans news. This was the big event, the highlight, Aaron. And it was a blowout, frankly. It was 34-0. It was a slaughter, a massacre. I mean, we'll review it from top to bottom, but where do you want to start with, Aaron, in
I
this
mean, honestly,
massacre of a game?
where we can start is the score because that final score is not the final score that it should be. Honestly, the final score of that game should be 34-0 because by the third quarter the game was over. Like there was no comeback. There was no feeling of a comeback. Like me, because I am a Chief hater because we lost to the Chiefs, so I am gonna hate when they were losing that bad. And I loved it even more because who was on call? Tom Brady. And I kept saying it while watching TV. I said, "You're no Brady. You ain't coming back."
Yeah, and Tom Brady was calling that game. I think that's what made it way more entertaining was
Yeah.
him calling it, right? Because he was color casting it,
Mm.
meaning that he was giving his own analysis. He's been in the Super Bowl. To hear
Yeah.
a person, 7-time Super Bowl champion, right, talk about, color cast a Super Bowl game, I think every Super Bowl he should just be the color caster,
Yeah.
in my opinion, because he gives his own perspective of what he knows. Because he's won enough Super Bowls. He's been to 9 or 10 Super Bowl appearances,
And been down 27-0.
multi-time
Yeah.
MVP. Yeah, exactly. So he has experience. It's like seeing Michael Jordan color
Yeah.
cast a basketball game, right? It's like you want to see someone that has experience, has the championships, color cast these games. Tom Brady did a really good job of color casting it. He gave his own opinions on it. And, throughout the game specifically, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, let's start with his statistics. 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, sacked 6 times, 257 yards, and 21 for 32 was his completion. But, yeah, most definitely what stands out to me is picks. Obviously, they were ugly. They were not they were really bad picks. And his sacks is really concerning.
Yeah.
I mean, you look on the other side, Jalen Hurts only got sacked 2 times. He was 17 for 22, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 221 yards. But only sacked 2 times, and he had a really good O-line. And with Patrick Mahomes, his O-line collapsed. I mean, 6 sacks. That Eagles front looked like something the Seahawks put together with Legion of Boom, right? It was crazy.
It's like from that first half, say from the first quarter to the second quarter, seeing that Patrick Mahomes only had 24 passing yards going into the second quarter, I was like, this isn't real. This is crazy. And seeing Cooper DeJean getting his first pick six, his first interception in the Super Bowl, it's like, you can't make this up, especially on his birthday. But say from the whole Super Bowl's perspective, that defense was just deadly. Like that Georgia D line, because that's mainly all Georgia players from Jalen Carter and all them.
Yeah.
But having that young secondary look good as good as they were. Like, yeah, you can say Hopkins, Juju, Hollywood Brown, that they all lost their step, but those are still key receivers. So for Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, for them to stop the weapons that were there, especially stopping Kelce, because you didn't really see Kelce at all either. Just being able to stop their offense the way that nobody else has stopped their offense like that, because that was just mind-blowing that their offense got stopped like that. So just seeing how good the Eagles defense was, that was just great to see. When I looked at that Chiefs offense, I was like, this is why you need to build around a good offensive line, because having a bad offensive line, a mediocre offensive line, it's going to just tear you up in the most key positions. And seeing Patrick run around for almost every single play, especially I don't even remember a time where I saw Patrick Mahomes get straight hit in the face, fumbled, strip sacked, and just seeing him look like he lost his confidence. I was like, man, the Eagles just, it felt like a college game, say Georgia versus just some unknown college.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And it's really one of those facts, right? Like you look at this game in the Super Bowl and you really think like the Eagles really just went in there and smacked the Chiefs around. I mean, it felt like a college championship game. That's how it felt. It felt like a college championship game where one team's better than the other, and it's so obvious. And it really just felt like the Eagles did whatever they wanted on offense. I mean, Devontae Smith got that long touchdown. He started seeing Jalen Hurts taking those shots downfield with confidence. Jalen Hurts, we saw a better side of him. We saw a quarterback that can, drive his team downfield, limit turnovers. He only had 1, but outside of that turnover, he was flawless. There's a reason why he was Super Bowl MVP. He really played a really good game. Even running the ball, he's 11 for 72, 1 touchdown, 17 long, right? He had some good rushing stats there, and even his passing stats were good as well. So rushing and passing, he was definitely a really good player for his team that day. The Chiefs.
I was just going to comment and say, I feel with the Eagles offense, like I think the Chiefs defense was too key into going after Saquon, because Saquon did have a struggle game, but I feel the Chiefs defense didn't give enough credit to Jalen Hurts going after him more, covering the receivers more, because Jalen Hurts can squander a lot of opportunities from previous years, especially from that previous Super Bowl, but seeing what Jalen Hurts did, it felt like they didn't think he would prove. They didn't think that he would do what he did, and he proved it, throwing all them passes to AJ, to Devontae Smith, to Dallas Goedert. He showed up in the brightest stage.
No, and even the long passes, man. I mean, his longest pass of the day was 46, and then after that, 27, 22, 20. So he took shots downfield. I mean, that's what was most impressive, and I think nobody expected it. And not even the Chiefs defense. I think they were playing to stop Saquon. And basically they wanted Jalen to beat them with his arm. And he did just that, to be honest. He really did it.
Like he looked like Alabama Jalen Hurts. That's how he looked right there.
Yeah, he did. Alabama Jalen would probably wreck this Chiefs defense too. I'm not even gonna lie. Alabama Jalen, right? Being confident, taking shots downfield, not being afraid to expose the secondary as well, and that's what Jalen's really doing well. He
Mhm.
doesn't get enough credit for it. People want to call
Nah,
him
he
a
doesn't.
game manager. I don't think he's a game manager. I really think
Yeah,
he's a great quarterback that,
yeah.
clearly, he won the Super Bowl MVP. So, and you look on the other side with the Chiefs offense, what's
Mhm.
more concerning is the rookie of the receiving core is
Mhm.
a leading receiver. 8
Yeah,
for 157, 2 touchdowns. Shout out to Xavier Worthy
yeah,
for doing those stats right there. I mean, yes, you can say garbage time, but I mean,
yeah, yeah.
Xavier Worthy felt really like throughout the whole game was the only one that showed up out of the
Mhm.
whole receiving core. I mean, you look at everyone else, Hollywood Brown, Juju, DeAndre, Travis, none of these stats are really exciting. And DeAndre Hopkins had that huge drop that
Yeah,
everyone was just like shocking, right? It's really
yeah.
shocking that DeAndre Hopkins has a drop in the Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, he hasn't been there, but he's had enough experience
Mm.
where you could assume that, in that kind of stage of where he was at, you could already just assume that he would be prepared for it. But of
Yeah.
course, it just happens to the best of the receivers. And Xavier Worthy showed up that day. I mean,
Mhm.
2 touchdowns, 157 yards. That's a lot. And only
Yeah.
8 receptions. Really good by Worthy there. I mean, just, to see some of these players show up and the Chiefs still lose, it's just really sad to see
And
that too.
yeah, and honestly, it's gonna be really interesting to see how the Chiefs do in this offseason because DeAndre Hopkins is pretty much left. He's pretty much gone. Travis Kelsey is a possible retire. Like that's a possibility. Juju, you don't know what's happening to Juju because Juju hasn't been the same since he was on the Steelers. Hollywood Brown, he's one of those where it's 50-50 on how he'll do, but especially that offensive line was tragic. And especially on their defensive side, Chris Jones, you don't know what's going to happen with him because honestly, it looked terrible to see Chris Jones at that Super Bowl holding on to his knee the entire time. I was like, dude, this dude looks like he's playing on one leg at this point because the other leg is just badly messed up. So honestly, it's gonna be interesting to see like where their money's gonna go, what they're gonna go after. Like they're still gonna be the same team, but it just comes down to how they're gonna build up. Like if they're gonna just say, let's start up from a little rebuild, or let's see what we have left in the offseason to go after what we need to go after.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely like you were saying, I mean, it just definitely feels, just kind of like the Chiefs are just gonna have to do some moves this offseason. Now, we're gonna
Mm,
see how this team ends up next year. The
yeah.
Chiefs will still be good. I think, there's fans and, people across the media that
Oh
want
yeah.
to see the Chiefs fall, but I do not think so. I think as long as Andy Reid and Mahomes are there, just those two, and um, that
Mm.
DC as well.
Yeah, you forgot the
Don't know his name right now, but I
name.
promise I will. Actually, let me just before
Isn't
Chiefs
it
fans
isn't
get
it
mad
Vic
at me.
Fangio?
It is
Oh, I'm
Spagnolo.
terrible.
Yeah, Steve Spagnolo, Andy Reid, and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
The Chiefs will be great. I honestly think they'll be great. They're a great team, and as long as you have those three, that's really your core. That's what you're looking for
Mhm.
in the Chiefs team. They'll continue to be good. I just think that the Eagles just had their number that day,
Oh yeah,
right? Vic
the better team
Fangio,
won.
shout out to Vic Fangio, the defensive
Hmm.
coordinator, did a fantastic job at game planning for Mahomes in this offense, and got his first win against Mahomes, which was
Hmm.
definitely really good for Fangio, and also getting the Super Bowl right with the team. Kellen Moore is not going to be there anymore next year. I think next year he's going to
Yeah.
go with the Saints. That
Funny
should
how he
be, yeah,
yeah, funny how he won the Super Bowl in the Superdome where he's gonna be coaching.
he's going to coach there now. So it's
Yeah.
like, that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. Going to see what happens there.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting who the Eagles are going to hire as the next offensive coordinator,
Hmm.
just because now Kellen Moore is not going to be there. So we shall see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But this Eagles team should remain together. I think they definitely will be deadly next year. I think
Oh yeah.
some
Yeah.
can say that defense is the new Legion of Boom, right? Not kind
Yeah.
of like the Legion of Boom. The Legion of Boom
Yeah.
Seattle was something special. But of course, I think this defense is like right your current
Yeah.
version of what is our Legion of Boom, right? For the
And
new
then
generation.
with the Eagles, they still have picks. They still have money. They're still going to go after who they want to go after. So say they add somebody else on the
Yeah.
defense. That defense is going to take them to the Super Bowl again if they have to. But with the Chiefs side of the ball, the Chiefs honestly have to worry about not the NFL, but they got to worry about their own division because honestly, their division is going to be one of those interesting ones with Pete Carroll on the Raiders,
Yeah.
The Chargers, and those two teams, they're going to be the ones that you got to watch out for if you're the Chiefs, because having good coaches, especially giving the coaches the reins with who they want, it's going to be deadly to see who can, surprisingly pop out and just defeat the Chiefs in their division.
No, definitely. And, the Super Bowl, definitely interesting. Right now we're just kind of going to we're going over the Super Bowl now, but,
Mhm.
it's just an amazing, it was a pretty good Super Bowl. I wouldn't
Oh
say it
yeah,
was amazing. I wouldn't say it was great. It was definitely a solid Super Bowl. It's just reminded me, this score was basically 40-6. It
yeah,
was like the Broncos Seahawks, right?
yeah.
Everyone, when I was watching it, all the friends around me were just like, it's Broncos Seahawks. It's another
That's nearly
repetition
what I
of it
thought too.
yet
Yeah.
again. And it feels exactly like that. But yeah, I mean, we'll definitely see. There's definitely a lot of media talking about it in regards to, Patrick Mahomes. Does it affect his legacy? And that is a question we should bring up right now, Aaron. Does this loss impact Patrick Mahomes' legacy as a quarterback?
Yeah, to
What are
me,
your thoughts on that?
yeah, to me as a Chief hater, as like me not really caring for any of the players, to me it doesn't affect his legacy at all because he's won all these Super Bowls. He's looked great.
Mm,
Just the passes he's made, the name of him, Mahomes. When you hear Mahomes, you just immediately think, oh, that's the Chiefs quarterback. He's done what he's done. It's just to me, he's never like to me honestly he's not going to reach Brady's level because and that's honestly what I've always like been questioning. Like a lot of people say, oh, he's going to be the next Brady, but to me Brady is on his own level of GOAT status. Like Brady is literally, like we said, Brady is literally Jordan. Nobody, yeah, you have LeBron that's like up there with Jordan,
mm.
but he's you're never going to be that star, that Hall of Famer, that GOAT. And honestly, Brady's on another level with winning Super Bowls with two teams, having that amazing comeback against the Falcons, and just honestly, when you think of Brady, you just think of all those rings that fit two fingers. So Mahomes, he can possibly win other Super Bowls, but for right now, to me, he's not on Brady's level. But this Super Bowl, it didn't affect his legacy at all. It's just another loss to him. What it feels like is like whenever they lost to the Buccaneers a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and as we're starting to enter into the off season, we're definitely going to see a lot of different things happen. In
Mm.
in regards to that question, though, I will say I don't think it really affects it. I think it kind of does in a way. I mean, his two losses were horrible. Like
Yeah,
whenever he loses a Super Bowl, I'm
yeah,
noticing that it's
yeah.
bad. It is horrible. Like the Bucks was a blowout. This game was definitely a blowout,
Hmm.
and it just shows you like that is insane. Like the two losses he's had, the
Yeah,
Brady and Jalen Hurts, right? So. Um, Right. The quarterbacks he's lost to, right? Tom Brady,
mm,
Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. Those are three quarterbacks he's lost to in the postseason
mm,
now. And, definitely go down in history. Once you're in the books, right? Can't
yeah,
take it off. That's Eagles win. Shout out to the Eagles fan
hmm,
base and the Eagles on its own, their organization. Good win for them. But I'm just going to shout this out at the end of the podcast here as we're starting to conclude. I
mm,
think that a quarterback that is going under the radar right now that no one is expecting to be good, I honestly think he has expectations,
hmm.
but I think Drake May will be a quarterback that shows up next year. I think the Patriots should be on some kind of alert because I think with Mike Vrabel being the head
Yeah,
coach,
yeah,
we've seen him take the Titans to the AFC Championship, right? Like we've seen him make teams good and make
yeah,
defenses specifically. Like the Titans defense did not have a lot of talent in
yeah.
2019
No,
or
no.
even through the years, right? He made not really talented players, not really talented roster, might I
Hmm,
say, into a really good roster, right?
hmm.
And he was just able to do that with his leadership, right? With his charisma, with his
Yeah.
experience in football as a player and as a defensive player. I think Mike Vrabel's a good head coach, and to see
Oh
him
yeah,
go to
most
New
definitely.
England, I mean, shoot, we don't know, right? I think New England
Yeah,
is going to be a possible good team. Maybe not this year, coming up year. Maybe
but
they'll
they're
be pretty
yeah,
good in the middle
yeah.
of the pack. But I think definitely for upcoming years, I think Drake May and this Patriots team is a team I would start to
Hmm.
look at and see. I think they can start to show up, especially with Drake May. I think all these other rookie quarterbacks have gotten their spotlight
Yeah.
except Drake May. And I think once we start to see the Patriots elevate, we should start to see that spotlight go on Drake May more.
Yeah, honestly, with going back to our division, I think it is interesting to see who Tennessee picks with that first pick because
Mm.
it could be Travis Hunter, it could be Sanders, it could be Cam Ward. It's interesting to see what position they go after, especially when it comes to quarterback. From them having Will Levis to Mason Rudolph. So it's one of those where it's like, it'll be interesting to see. So they're one of the teams where it's like, what are y'all gonna do? Are y'all gonna make the right pick or mess it up even more?
Yeah, most definitely. And, that will be it, ladies and gentlemen. Those are kind of like what our thoughts were in the podcast of the Super Bowl, from Colts to Texans news. We are here for it. Follow us on our socials, DJ Be Cool. Follow Aaron at Aaron Mahia on Instagram, aka Head of the Table. That was us at the Rival Podcast. And you guys have a blissful and a great weekend.
Y'all be good.